Hello, self-alignment here. Alright, so we're gonna do a reading. I don't know what it's about at all, but we're gonna go with this. So the leading energy though is sleepless nights, overthinking, uh, tying up loose ends, making sure everything's in order, you know, there's some anxiety, happiness, you know, um, there may have been depression, but there's really not. You're pretty much copacetic where you're at, considering it's like you're accepting things as they are, and you're just gonna try something whole new different, Like, one time the um, predictability was doable, but the day when you started feeling that it wasn't was the day you actually grew in your spirit. Um, because I don't know anybody that doesn't like to know what's going to happen next. It doesn't know what to expect. Uh, Usually, when we do things like this, we're needing to be in control. So I'm going to be as gentle as I know how to be, and be blunt and honest. Also, I try to be very mindful of other people's feelings, but when you're trying to soulfully align people and being their best self like God would want us to do, love thy neighbor as thyself, you know, and when people take our control away from us, we have to find control somewhere else. So, for example, let's say I like this dude, right? Okay, well, if I don't tell him, I'm the only one that knows about it, right? Okay, I have control over that. But if I tell him, he has control over how it turns out, because then the ball's in his court. That'll cause anxiety, fear, whatnot. So this person isn't like a dickhead or, you know, purposefully trying to be a control freak. This is also part of dysfunction, believe it or not. So this was put there before they were able to even have control over the thought about it or whatever. You know, so they're having to not outgrow it. They've already tried that and it didn't work. Now they're having to rewrite things how they want them to be. And see, the sad part about it is it wouldn't have worked if they would have tried, because they've come up from a family that expects a certain thing in a certain way. Very strict, rigid, and if you steer off of that path, well, you're the black sheep and there's something wrong with you and you're the devil and blah 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 blah. They have suffered a lot of childhood traumas. A lot of this stuff they'll keep to themselves, but it takes one to know one. And you know the thing about it is when you unintentionally let your life control you, it shows up in other ways, especially in your romantic sector of your life. That's where you'll notice it the most, because it's where we're most active, always searching, wanting, loving, needing, whatever. All right, so it's going to end up making you feel closed off. You're going to be emotional, but it just seems like too much work to have to show that shit to people. So then you start seeing all this and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't do all that. Well, yeah, you did. All those times when you just said yeah when you meant no, or said no when you meant yeah, or did that thing you didn't really want to do and complained about it later and then had to eat karma 6 more times. I mean, we all have accountability, whether it's big or small. and to, accept things as they are, and to criticize oneself, and to have to own that is painful. It's called an ego death. But this particular person in this card is really, really going through a lot of shit. So if you're being ghosted by this person, and you know them well enough, then you'll have patience and be understanding and wait, you know. Do what you can on your behalf for them, whether they know about it or they don't. Sometimes it's best to do work without somebody knowing it. Like right now, I'm in the middle of a karmic debt on behalf of a whole grown person and have been for a very long time. And yes, it does get irritating from time to time. There will be days I just don't want to mess with it, and I'm just like, golly, leave me alone, Lord, please leave me alone, golly, leave me alone. It don't happen, so I have to get up every day and deal with this. So I may read about this person 50 times in one day, but if that's what God said I have to do, that's what God said I have to do. Alright, so next card. Alright, this person's been doing a lot of thinking, about a situation where they didn't follow their intuition. They made a wrong choice, a decision, surround themselves around the wrong people. And some of the people they knew better. But when we're suffering, or when we're scared, or lacking, what is that? When you go to do something, and it's not courage, it's self-esteem. When you're lacking self-esteem, your feet ain't finna move nowhere. Then you're gonna get stuck. Then you're gonna get. It's just really messy, But this person is feeling like, I don't know. They just feel pretty responsible for a really nasty situation. Like, they feel like they could have done more than they did. Like, maybe somebody brought something to their attention and it's been bugging the shit out of them. Because in this nasty group of people, there was some abusive behaviors going on, and they were aware, but what were they going to do? Step in and handle it? You know what I mean? But they're really concerned about the situation. This may be involving people that they grew up with, that they know, people they work with, family. They are heavily concerned about a Gemini. Yep. But for whatever reason, they are holding back their true intentions, their true feelings, their emotions, for fear over getting hurt or losing more. They've lost so much already, and they don't want to lose more. And, they could be, mirroring to you how you're acting. Maybe you feel like you don't want to move forward, but I really don't see that being the case. Alright? So I see here that there is a transformation going on. It does bring with it a lot of delays, a lot of change. Because when you're ending old things, and I don't just mean one or two, I mean a lot of different stuff, individual things, a handful of things. It takes time. Time is fluid. It's always moving. So you can't always account for. Okay, so there is been a struggle with communication between this fellow and this Gemini I see here. Okay, but there is good news, and messages are going to be going back and forth at some point. Things are happening behind the scenes, so you're being told that everything is in active motion. Believe in what you cannot see, because things are definitely on the move emotionally. Yep. So my advice to you would be to keep yourself busy and do you until further notice, because you'll know when further notice is. Alright, so there's, for some of you, or, this person may have questions that need answering. For some of you, You may be seeking higher learning and spirituality, like some kind of course. You may be also, this person in this reading too, may be also finding out that they're very spiritual and it's really not all that bad. You know, um, there may be children involved, a little girl, a little boy, at least two. Um, there may be a Scorpio involved. There may be a Taurus involved. There's a Gemini involved. Um, yeah. Well, that's good that that situation is going to come to an end. But then, yeah. So this person, your person, him, her, man, woman, this dude to this Gemini, y'all, whoever is it applying to, you're finding out, and so is this person in this reading is finding out that there's a lot of third party influence going on, and they're starting to see that in family involvement, and they're just kind of like, they knew this was going to be an issue in the beginning, and they didn't follow their intuition about it, and a bunch of shit went down, and this is why they feel responsible, because they were right about whatever the fuck they were thinking. So it has left everybody dissatisfied with their life, but they are going to be the help from unexpected place to help this person. But like I said, it's also destined and fated, divine soulmate union in the end. So, yeah. Still considering options about, what to say, you know, and it'll all work out. That's what I know. What's meant to work out will work out. You've been working on it too hard, brother, for it not to work out. Love, light, and peace.